Multiple storm systems are on the way to the U.S. over the next 7 days, and you know what that means, a multitude of impacts for different areas, whether it's heavy rain or even the potential for some strong to severe storms over the south central end of these storm systems, or the northern end where you're going to get some snowfall. I've got you covered in this video with details on both sides of both systems.
One Nation Weather.
The maps I'm about to use throughout this presentation are from WeatherBell, so don't forget to check out that trial down in the description for those. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below with where you're watching from and any questions you have. But taking a look at the future radar, timing out storm number 1, timestamps are in the description if you want to skip to storm number 2, but you can see system is really going to begin with some showers and storms over parts of Texas and Oklahoma, starting right now as I film this Wednesday evening and into the nighttime hours. Really, as we go into Thursday, we'll see a little bit of a severe weather threat ramp up over parts of south central Texas and closer to the Houston metro area as well. Simultaneously, our northern end of what is eventually going to fuse here, these two pieces are eventually going to fuse and form a system on the east coast. Northern end of that Thursday night going into our Friday, exiting parts of Montana, heading into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's where we'll see some snowfall, some of it briefly heavy at times. That continues to the southeast as we go through the day Friday. On Friday, we'll also be watching some showers and storms over parts of the Arklatex region and Arklamis region down there in the south central and Gulf Coast area, as well as on down there in Florida. Some of that could briefly be severe, and we'll talk about the severe weather side a little bit more in detail here in a second. Also, some briefly heavy snowing up there in the upper Midwest Great Lakes as we go through Friday. Some of that will continue to kind of slide along the polar jet stream as we go, say, towards the 11 p.m. time frame Friday, moving through Michigan and over parts of Lake Erie as well. We'll also be watching the southern and subtropical jet stream kind of helping to fuse that southern moisture and the rainfall into one bigger East Coast system that's connecting with that snowfall up north. You can see heavy mid-Atlantic rain through the day Saturday. By Saturday evening, we're going to be watching a little bit of snowfall in interior New England at the end of the day and into early Sunday as well. By the time we go to the afternoon Sunday, we really just kind of see a little bit of cool air trail the system, especially into the northeastern United States, and then our focus will be on the next one as that one kind of moves on out. So it's pretty quick of a hitter here for a lot of areas, although the rain will seem like it'll last a while, especially if you live in the south and east. You can see, again, local pockets of showers and storms late Thursday going into our Friday there over parts of Texas and the Arklatex especially. As we go into the day Friday, our best chance for heavy showers and storms is going to be down there closer to the Florida Keys, where I think a little bit of a severe weather threat will especially develop there. And then we're going to watch heavier rainfall through the day Saturday, especially. These are ensembles that we're looking at here, so a collection of a bunch of models showing us that heavy rain is really going to track along the east coast and then eventually into the north and east, and along those, again, coastal zones, especially getting the heaviest of this rain as we go late through the day Saturday as well and into very early Sunday. So my severe weather scale looks like this for Thursday and into Thursday night. Multiple clusters of storms look likely throughout the day, with hazards mostly being wind and hail. A low-wind tornado threat also possible, and with just enough wind shear present there through southeast Texas. A 2 of 7 on my scale is worth watching. So if you live anywhere from central Texas around Dallas and even towards Abilene, all the way on down there closer to Houston area, that's where I'm watching a low end threat as we go through the day Thursday. Into Friday, another 1 to 2 on my threat scale here, and it's especially going to include parts of the Florida Keys for that threat of maybe all hazards. But again, this is not a big severe weather event. What it is a pretty hefty rain event, and look at those precipitation totals here. Eastern Texas looks like a lot of areas will pick up about 1 to 3 inches of rain there, maybe into parts of Louisiana as well. We're also going to notice some heavier totals on up here, especially through Florida, but on into Georgia, the Carolinas, and towards the Mid-Atlantic, again falling later in the day, especially Friday, and into our Saturday, especially as you trek on up there towards the Mid-Atlantic. This is going to be falling into the day Saturday. Widespread 1 to 3 inches over that region. Down in South Florida, wouldn't rule out locally 4 to 6 inches of rain as well. And the same goes right along that New England coastline and into parts of the Jersey Shore as well. We'll see if that scoots west just a little bit. Some of those heavier totals could be onshore, and we could see a little bit more of a flooding concern erupt. But for now, this doesn't look like a major flood event, just watching those heavier pockets for minor flooding. We've also got some snowfall along the system as well that's going to move from Montana all the way through the Great Lakes. This is just through Saturday at 2 a.m. The GFS model, one of our computer models we look at, and look at where it's showing some of those heavier totals closer to 8 to 10 inches of snow through parts of south central Wisconsin, south central Michigan as well, maybe even including areas just around or northwest of Detroit. It shows those heaviest pockets showing up there. I wouldn't think that we're going to get 8 to 10 inches in most communities, but in a widespread swath of 3 to 6 inches, I do think that will be locally possible, especially in southern Wisconsin, and it's definitely more likely over there into parts of interior northeast through parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine in those highest elevations there. But again, if you live in south central Wisconsin into parts of south central Michigan, look at this model blend. You can see it looks a little bit more realistic with widespread 3 to 6 inches. But again, with some of those purples trying to show on up there, even into parts of south central Wisconsin, south central Michigan, all the way on over there into the northeast, some local areas you might not expect it, but you could get a little bit over half a foot, even though that doesn't look likely for most areas that are in that blue swath. Now, beyond that point, we're going to turn our attention to our next storm system that looks like it's going to be battering the west with a lot of just, generalized rain, snow, even some gusty winds at times as we go through the weekend. Even Sunday in the early morning hours, you can see a lot of snow over parts of the Mountain West, some snow moving through parts of Montana, maybe even into the Dakotas and southern Minnesota at that point as this low tries to get going there. It's probably going to move right out of the Rockies and into the high plains here late Sunday. That could lead to a very heavy swath of snow somewhere into parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota. The GFS has that being a little bit further north, at least with the midday Wednesday run. That's what we've seen, but you can definitely see that cold front and dry line also stretching there through the high plains. Yeah, West Texas, western Oklahoma, even parts of western Kansas. Maybe he's trying to move into parts of Nebraska if we can get the moisture that far north, and maybe a severe weather threat late Sunday night going into our early Monday. You can definitely see that wraparound heavy snow event on the northern end of the system that's likely to be there, and we're also going to see a south central severe weather threat that looks like it'll maybe continue through the southern plains and into the lower Mississippi Valley sometime late Monday and into Monday night. As those storms continue to progress towards the east, it looks like we could see that threat move through parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, and Tennessee. It's very early to tell, though. This is just one model solution, and it looks, based on trends that we've been seeing, like this storm is going to begin to eventually fall into tatters as it heads eastward. Still some lingering, maybe severe showers and storms through parts of the Ohio Valley all the way back down towards the southeast as we go into our Tuesday, but moisture looks to be a problem that the system is going to be lacking with. Nonetheless, though, the Storm Prediction Center already jumping the gun and showing a level 2 of 5 severe weather threat on their scale here from parts of south central Kansas, parts of southwest Oklahoma, as well as on over there towards places just north of Abilene, Texas there into our Sunday and Sunday night. They're saying this could begin with some supercells, maybe transition to a little bit more of a squall line. So on my ONW severe scale, I've already got a 2 of 7 risk here through parts of north central Texas, western Oklahoma, into south central Kansas, even on down there into southern Nebraska, though, watching that potential for maybe an all hazards threat developing with this kind of scenario. And even though the Storm Prediction Center hasn't jumped the gun on Monday yet as I filmed this video, a negatively tilted trough, which is a strong vertical looking trough here in the 500 millibar winds, which are those mid-level winds, it is showing that on many models at this point moving into the central and south central United States as we go towards Monday. I think the threat could be elevated there into the Arklatex as well, so stay on high alert there. Even towards the Midwest, maybe stay on a little bit of alert. What you're also on alert for in the upper Midwest is this snowfall. It starts in the west coast and into the Mountain West and those high elevations, but notice they're into parts of North Dakota, Minnesota, as well as Wisconsin. That's where the GFS model really shows a big win with more than a foot of snowfall as we go kind of late Sunday into Monday, as well as into Tuesday of next week in that snow shield over that area. Now, some areas that get initially snow might try to turn over to rain throughout this event, but look at this. This is your European model, and it shows a lot of those same areas in the purples and pinks. Notice it goes a little bit further north as well, especially initially on. Nonetheless, though, there's pretty decent consensus that the second storm system that we're looking at right now could have very heavy snow pockets embedded in it, so it's worth watching that. But also just note how much at least light to moderate snow will fill in even some of the lower elevations there in the west. So this is definitely a pretty considerable late season snowfall event for a lot of areas there, especially if you live in the northwestern quadrant of the U.S. Now, looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook here from the Climate Prediction Center, this takes us towards that back week time frame of March here. Look at that cooler than average air exiting parts of the north central plains, it looks like, especially a little bit warmer than average with a little bit of ridging in the east at that point. Looking like that will be clearing on out probably at the back end of this weakening storm system or whatever is left of it into late next week. And it does look like it'll be a little bit active still over a lot of the country. Now, in terms of the last thing I want to talk about in this video, which is temperatures, here we go. Thursday, March 21st, 2024. A lot of the south central United States and the southern tier in general in the 60s and 70s. Cooler teens and 20s on up there right along that immediate northern tier and that Canadian border through the Great Lakes into the northeast. As we go towards Friday, the 22nd, look at this. We've got 50s and 60s pushing well into parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, all the way on over to the southern Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, on up there in the Dakotas and Minnesota, as well as interior New England, barely touching the teens and 20s there for high temperatures on Friday. So make sure you're bundling up on there, protecting any sensitive vegetation if you have any out this time of the year already up there. Probably not, and hopefully not. But notice that line. We're still going to be definitely worrying about the cooler temperatures north of it as we go Saturday. Meanwhile, pretty mild and to even warm warm over a lot of the southeast. Notice Sunday, you really start to notice our temperature contrast, where that severe weather could be possible in the high plains, the southern high plains, I should say, in the south central plains Sunday. 70s down there. Meanwhile, up there into Montana and the Dakotas, I mean, again, we're still in the teens. Again, as we go towards our Monday, it's looking like severe weather ingredients could be a little bit riper down there, closer to the south central Gulf Coast there through the Ark-La-Tex, lower Mississippi Valley, even though the Storm Prediction Center hasn't hinted at that quite yet. Certainly looks like we're going to see some 70s, even some maybe low 80s trying to push through the Gulf Coast and even up towards the Midwest a little bit. That's going to be in the contrast of those 20s to the north and west, so it's definitely our strongest look to our cold front looks to be appearing on Monday, which is March 25th. And then as we head towards the midweek time frame of next week, still warm over a lot of the south, cooler to the north and west. We'll see if eventually we can take more of a cool plunge over the entire United States. If you want to track all storms with me, of course, there's a lot of uncertainty in all these models I've been showing throughout this video. Take a lot of it with a grain of salt. Please hit that subscribe button, and I'll continue to keep you updated as those models shift around and get me towards that 4,000 subscriber goal. That's the end of this video.